Alright, so I got my AEM wideband gauge right here. I believe it's called like the X series or something. Here goes the part number, 30-0300. I'm going to be installing it on this carbureted 350 that's in my 72 C10. Alright, so this is what comes in the box. You have a gauge. You have the weld-in bung. I got the new FAE sensor. It's supposed to be better than the Bosch. Okay, so this is the O2 sensor with the plug on it that plugs into this wiring harness that plugs into the back of your gauge. And then you have another wiring harness. This is where it gets its power from. This right here is the weld-in bung, right? It's basically a 7/8. Like the whole, like you would need, in other words, you would need a 7/8 drill to drill into your pipes or wherever you're going to put it. As for this thing measures across here. I already measured it, so I don't even know why I'm doing it again. It's 2 3/64, which just a little bit bigger would be like 2 1/16, right? Pretty close to 2 1/16. So what you'll need is a hole saw about 2 1/16. I already have one. This is actually a 2 1/8, but the way that it mounts is it has these two little screws, and it has this. So from the looks of it, you just have to drill a 2 1/8 or 2 1/16 hole. The 2 1/8 hole I think would work as well because look how much extra it has. Like where it squishes it. Like it'll be fine. I know it's pretty dark in here, but here's the dash inside my truck. It has a hole right here. It has like 2 or 3 holes like right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a bracket shaped kind of like this and bolt it to the hole and then bolt my gauge to it. Alright, so I got this piece of steel. I'm pretty sure it's like, doesn't really matter. It's about 40 thousandths thick. I already got me a little shape cut out right here. Not cut out, drawn, my lines drawn. I'm just going to use a cut-off wheel, cut that piece out, and I'll come back whenever I have the little bracket thing done. Alright, so I marked this when I was on the truck. It said on the instructions it says go 10 inches back from the collector. The collector's right here. Where it actually merges is maybe a few extra inches before that, but whatever. And I have this pointed. It says to do like at least a 10-degree angle up for water not to drain back in it. And some people argue with that and say, oh, that doesn't matter. Whenever I pulled this exhaust off, it literally had water in it. Like from condensation. No, it's not head gasket. It's nothing like that. It's literally like from the condensation. So they say do 10 degrees up. I'm not necessarily measuring it, but I'm putting as much angle as I can because the frame's kind of in the way. But it looks like it's probably more than 10 degrees. I marked my mark right here, and then I got me some step bits from Harbor Freight. It's 7/8. This one goes up to 7/8. And I'm going to go ahead and try to put a hole in it right here. I made my little bracket to hold the gauge. I just got to bend it and bolt it onto the dash. I know it looks crappy, but I just had to use something. This is probably temporary. Temp to permanent. I'll put it on the mark. Damn, I almost poked the whole way through it. I've never used a step bit before in my life. Somebody told me to be careful, you could actually break them really easy. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on. He said that they could snap. I don't want to get hit in the face with something. Let me get me some of my cutting oil. My 530 cutting oil. Yeah, it does kind of grab a little bit. You got to be a little bit careful. This was $18 for both of these at Harbor Freight. Wow. It's like almost a perfect fit. So I'm gonna go see if this is at a good angle or not before I weld it in. So the stuff I got to wire this up with, I got two rolls of 16 gauge wire. I think it says you only need 20, but all they had was 16. And I also got me one of these inline fuse holders. And one of the topics that came up with whenever I was talking to people about this is like whether or not you have to solder the joints or not. I even asked the chat thing on the AEM website, and they said the preferred method is to crimp them, but like to use like high quality stuff. Well, these were supplied in the pack, in the package, so I'm assuming they want you to use these. You would have to just use your own judgment on whether or not you want to crimp or solder them. I don't know. One guy said something really smart. A good crimp joint is better than a bad solder joint. Alright, so I made a discovery since like in the last 10 minutes. Who put that there? This is actually a piece of stainless. It's non-magnetic. I was wondering why. I was like, oh, it stayed shiny in the package so long, it must have some kind of coating, and I started cleaning on it. And I'm like, maybe it's stainless. So this is mild steel. I took off a little patch right here of the, I guess it's aluminized, whatever you call it. It has a coating on it. And that coating doesn't really like to weld that good with the TIG. So in order to weld, the most proper way, as far as I know, to do this is to use a 309L wire. It's a stainless wire. And if you don't believe me, go get a package and read it. It literally says something for welding stainless steels to carbon steels. Whenever preheat is not possible or something like that, it'll whatever. Now it's time for the fun part. I'm gonna put machine. Since this is 16 gauge, like 62 thousandths or whatever, and this is thick like over an eighth, I'll just put the amps like at 70, probably like 75. Alright, so I got it tacked in 4 different spots. And it looked like it didn't really move or anything, so I'm going to go ahead and finish welding it out. Alright, so there it is. I got it welded in. Welds are kind of ugly, but I think it will seal perfectly fine. I already tightened it down. I have it routed up through here. So that's the plug down there on the frame. And then you see that hole right there in the middle? That's where it's going to go through. Alright, so you see that part down on the frame. So this is the wiring harness that plugs into the O2 sensor. So this has to just be routed through the dash down to that frame. Plug it in. Simple as that. And then the other side plugs in the back of the gauge. Yeah, the lighting in here is real bad, but here goes my little bracket that I made. And it has one bolt just holding it to the dash. So I have my wire from the O2 sensor pulled through the dash of that hole. So that needs to go into the gauge. And then here goes your other wire, the other little harness that really I think you only need 2 wires off of it. I forgot which it is. I'm gonna have to go look at the instructions real fast. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug these in. And I'm going to go ahead and mount the gauge. Might as well. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get this wired up. I have to go look at the instructions real fast. That's basically where it's going to sit. So one wire goes to the ground and one wire goes to the key switch, supposed to come on with the switch. And I do have an inline fuse that I'm going to wire into it. But I think I'm going to skip through the rest of it and just go ahead and show it working because I don't want this video to take too long. Alright, so here's the engine. It's just a 350 with the Edelbrock 600 carburetor on there. I'm going to close the hood because it doesn't have a fan shroud on it, so I don't like that. But like, I had a wire right here that went to this switch. I don't even know what it is, but it came on with the switch, so I just used it. It had 12 volts that comes on with the switch. And then all I did was put the ground right here. I know it's bad lighting in here, but like, in other words, I didn't tuck the wires in good. They're just kind of hanging here. So when you turn the key on, it's going to go into that heat mode thing or whatever. I don't even know if you're supposed to start it yet. Yeah, why not? I'll go ahead and try to start it. It's kind of cold out here, and I don't have a choke on it, so it might... There's all my excuses. And it's been sitting for a couple of weeks without running, so maybe the carburetor's dry, like the fuel probably evaporated out of it. Oh my God. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get it to operating temperature, but as you can see, I had the gas down, revving at about, I don't know, about 11 or 1200 to warm it up, and it was sitting at like 13.8 or whatever it was sitting at. But let me get the engine up to operating temperature and mess with it a little bit. All right, it's sitting there idling at about, it's at operating temperature, it's idling at about 700. And it's 11.7, 11.6. Let me see what happens when I rev it a little bit. So it gets richer even at 2,000 RPMs. No, I'm sorry, it got... Hold on. It's idling at something else now, so like now I'm really confused. Okay, so it's idling at about 12.2. So it's not changing much whenever you rev it, and which it probably shouldn't, because it should be like in cruise mode, I guess. Uh-oh, why is it popping? Well, I mean, I didn't do all this just to go, my truck runs like crap. I'm actually going to try to tune it using that. I don't know. It'll be a learning process. I mean, I do have a pretty good understanding of a lot of things of how a carburetor works, but we'll see how good of understanding I have, how good it actually is. Alright, so I got it installed, and you can kind of see that it looks like it's pretty quick on monitoring, like in real time, where it's at. I didn't record this, I messed up and didn't hit the record button. But before it got totally warmed up, if you know what, if most people that drive carburetors will know what I'm talking about. Whenever a motor's like kind of cold, or even whenever, whenever you step on the gas fast and it'll kind of like almost like die or something. Whenever it was, I made the truck do that, and the AFR gauge went like straight to 25 and like max. I think that's where it maxes out, like to like way lean. And that just kind of shows, well, yeah. I don't know. Like, in other words, it's all adding up and making sense of like it looks like it's really telling me what it is. And the truck is idling. It was showing like 11.7, which is too rich to idle, which is kind of rich for it to be idling at that. But you know what? It's true. It's even like like you could smell that it's rich, and it kind of will burn your eyes a little bit. So, I mean, anyway. I thought I would have more explanations of what it is, like all that work just to go, oh, my truck doesn't run good. Well, I'm going to go back and research some stuff and kind of like relearn some stuff and go back over something and try to figure out how to actually tune this carburetor using that O2 sensor, that wideband. Of course, I'll need to be driving it. The truck already has insurance on it. I need to go get me some the tags on it. And I probably should check out the back brakes before I actually drive it. But yeah, I don't think there's too much you can tell because I'm getting on it, but I'm letting off, so it kind of like it'll show it kind of go lean, and then I don't even know. Like I don't think I've reached any really good conclusions about it today. But at least it's installed. I need to clean up the wiring a little bit. I just didn't have it well planned out. Everything just kind of. Anyway, whatever. It's in there. I'm gonna go ahead and end this video and continue on. I need to do a little bit more research and stuff about how to mess with that. Because I think I know, but I probably really don't. See, I have the O2 sensor right there, and it's just kind of angled up. It wraps around the top of this little frame mount or body mount. And this is going well away from the exhaust. It's actually like on top of the fender well. It just had a little crevice for it. So I figure I'm gonna end up tying it here or doing something. Does that look like at least 10 degrees? Probably. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe to the end.